share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with recipe share. Recipe share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with recipe share.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV where we take a few minutes to talk about recipes in a featured category. Today's category is Rise and Shine. I'm Elizabeth, and as usual, I'm joined by Katie and Beth to tell us about their recipes. So, Katie, take it away and tell us what you made.
Okay, I will. So what I have chosen today is a recipe that I've been kind of working on for a while, so I'm happy to share it with you. It's for corned beef hash with veggies. So corned beef hash, it feels like a pretty traditional, like diner sort of breakfast. And when I was a little kid, I used to love eating it like just warmed up from the can, which I tried recently a few years ago as an adult and found that I did not like that at all anymore. It's definitely something that I grew out of. But I know that there have been some times when I've ordered it at a diner and I thought it was pretty good. So I thought, well, let's see what I can do with this. And this especially around like St. Patrick's Day, everybody starts having corned beef and I start, wanting to throw this together. So what you do basically is you take potatoes. You can use red skin potatoes, or I've also used sweet potatoes in this recipe. They both work. And I've just recently thought if you tried both at the same time, that could be really tasty and beautiful too. So I think I'll try that next time I make this. But you boil your potatoes to basically get them cooked through for like 20 minutes. And then you fry up your veggies in a cast iron skillet with some oil. The veggies are onions, jalapeno peppers, Brussels sprouts, and carrots, all just kind of like chopped up fairly small. The Brussels sprouts halved or quartered, depending on how big they are. And you just kind of like press all the veggies down into your skillet. That's the nice thing about using the cast iron. It'll give you a lot of like browning and crispiness and stuff. So you get that going, and then you just like let it sit for a little bit and then stir it. Let it sit for longer, getting that crusty bits all on there. And then you put in your corned beef. And I just use just deli sliced corned beef that's just sliced pretty thin. And then I just chop it up, throw it right in there. I love that because it's so simple. You don't have to cook the meat. And then you just stir that all up, heat it through, and you put your potatoes in that you've reserved. And then you remove your veggies and then put your potatoes in. So you're sort of using the same skillet, but your veggies are all off to the side. So you're browning and crisping up your potatoes now. So once you get all those crisped up, usually it's like 5 minutes aside, like I'll let them sit for a little bit. And then you can put those in a casserole dish with all of your veggies. From there, you could definitely eat it that way. And it's really good. But generally what I do is cook a couple of eggs to go on top. So you could just fry up some eggs. But since I have learned to poach my eggs in the microwave, I have been doing it that way. So you just lukewarm water in a thin walled ceramic mug and crack your egg in. I've been cooking mine for about 50 seconds in my microwave these days. Your time may vary, but that is a really wonderful way to cook eggs to then just go on top of this. And yes, it's Rise and Shine. And so this is supposed to be a breakfast recipe, but I eat this a lot for lunch. So it's really nice to just like reserve sort of the hash bit and have it and then cook up the eggs really quickly. It takes like a minute. And you could definitely do that for breakfast too. But I must admit that I often do skip breakfast and go straight to lunch. So, but it's a really good one. I could definitely imagine making this for a bunch of people. I just make it for myself mostly because I'm like the person that likes corned beef and Brussels sprouts in my household. But if you had a bunch of people to make this for, I think it would be really successful too.
That's awesome. I always have felt daunted by corned beef hash, that kind of thing, because I feel like you brought up around St. Patrick's Day, it's always on like restaurant menus. And so in my head, I'm always like, oh, it's like hard to make, or it like is something that you would have to get out. Like like you would buy it out, but you made it sound so simple. It's just, like I want to try it. Sounds delicious.
Cool. Yeah, it's really easy, especially since you're getting the meat from already cooked from the deli, right? Like that's the best part.
Yeah, I was going to say that, especially with the deli meat. I the last few times I've made corned beef though for like St. Patty's Day with the cabbage,
Yeah.
it's been, I don't know, I think it'll be much better as a hash and not with the corn. It gets too mushy with the cabbage and potatoes. So I've kind of made a note to myself to not make that anymore, but I can see going with the hash instead.
Could be a good alternative holiday recipe.
I mean, especially when it's on sale all the time. It's hard to pass up, I think.
Yeah, I think that's another thing is like when it's around that time is when you can really find it a lot, and you'll find it more on sale too. So like everybody starts to think about cooking with it.
Yeah, sounds great.
Well, Beth, tell us about your Rise and Shine recipe.
Okay, I was looking for a recipe that incorporated one of my favorite brunch foods, which is bagels, and into a breakfast casserole. And I found a couple online. I found one in a cookbook I have here, so I made it probably 3 times. And the first couple times it was okay, but the ratios, and it probably was me not following the recipe, but ratios it just was dried out. So I made it again. This time I just used 2 bagels and made it a very small brunch casserole that we had it for lunch brunch. So the ratios would be 2 bagels and like 2 eggs to every bagel. So I got and also you should toast your bagels or make them day-old bagels if you could slice them and leave them out. But in my case, I did buy them most recently at the store. They were Zingerman's bagels, which are not my favorite, but also they're a little, they are pretty crusty, but it still worked pretty well. So tear up the bagels. I also use everything bagels, and the other times I made it, I used all everything, but this other time it was one plain and an everything. And that I think was also a good ratio there. So cut them up or pull them apart into bite-sized pieces in your pre-oiled dish. And then I beat 4 eggs and about a half a cup and I put this in my recipe. I only had coconut milk. It would be better with a more fatty milk because it just absorbs it better. But I did use coconut milk. Mix it up, pour it over. I added a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and then like a half of a stick of cream cheese, cubed, dotted, and then I cut up some tomatoes, the little grape tomatoes, and some capers and some red onion. But I mean, you can do whatever you want with this. But I sprinkled that on there. And on the side, this time I did have smoked salmon or lox because I love that stuff. But another time I made it with bacon on the side. And here's a couple of pictures. One of the bigger one I made, which is a lot more tomatoey, and then this one that turned out to be much better. The second casserole, I made sure I had 2 eggs for every bagel, and I think that's the way to go. The other ones, I didn't have as many eggs, and again, I think it would be even better. I'm not done perfecting this recipe, but I mean, I almost bagged the whole thing and made something completely different until when my husband had it yesterday, he goes, yeah, this is good. This is the right recipe. So, but I always think it could be improved upon. So again, with the whole milk, I think would be better personally, but I use coconut, and then the Parmesan cheese was also an addition that I didn't use before. I have seen this recipe with like pretty cheese laden. And I didn't, because to me, a bagel isn't really it's creamy. And I decided to try it with parm since I had some. So that was my recipe. You guys good? Okay. I look forward to hearing what you made, Elizabeth. So what did you make this time?
Sure. Beth, your recipe sounds amazing. Just wanted to say I watched a friend make something like that once, and when it like looked so delicious, and I've been meaning to try that. Hers had spinach in it when I watched her do
Mm.
it. And it looked fabulous. So now I'm re-inspired to try it after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really good with spinach. I like that idea. Great.
So
Okay. So
yeah.
what'd you make?
So I feel bad because I can't remember what cookbook this came from. I had 3 cookbooks out of the library at the same time, and they all had to go back because they had holds on them. And I don't know which of the 3 it came out of. So I'm not going to say a cookbook name. I'm going to try and figure it out later. But this is a cool recipe that I made for my husband, Brian, and he really liked it. So you shred a potato on like a grater, and you are supposed to oil a pan and like very thinly spread the potato. They use the word lattice to try to like lattice it um, in on the pan, and just kind of let it get crispy on the side, like on the bottom. And then while that's happening, you shred some sharp cheddar cheese. And once the potatoes cook for a few minutes, you place the cheese on so it gets melty. And then you make a small hole in the center and crack an egg into it and let the egg just kind of set. And then the recipe recommended blue corn tortillas. I could not find those, so I just used yellow corn tortillas, but I do think blue corn would be really delicious. And in a separate skillet, you just kind of warm those and kind of get them a little bit toasty. You could probably just do it in the microwave if you wanted to keep it simple, but I did put it in the skillet. And then you basically scoop the hash cheese egg gently onto the warmed tortilla and drizzle it with some hot sauce. And it was super good. I made this 3 times. The first time I did not lattice the potatoes properly and they didn't fully cook. So they were a little, I don't know even what you call like slimy, because like just not cooked grated potatoes. So I would highly recommend just being really careful when you spread out the potatoes that they are pretty thin so that they can get fully kind of hash crispy, all that. And I have a photo here of what it looks like, and it was delicious. I plan to keep it in my repertoire because it's so easy, and those are things I usually have on hand: a potato and eggs and some cheese to shred. I mean, the recipe calls for sharp cheddar, but you could use anything that you have, and some corn tortillas, and it was great. I think one thing, the hot sauce is really what gave it the flavor. So I would maybe put some me and my herbs. I would maybe put some like fresh cilantro on there, or even like some basil would be nice, just to give it just like some greenery and like a little bit more fresh tasting. But it's been fabulous. I've been making it for months now. I mean, the first time I made it was before the new year, actually, and then I made it again a few weeks ago for this episode, and it's great. So I feel horrible that I don't know what cookbook it came from, but I'm gonna figure it out. And it's kind of just like, breakfast potato on a tortilla. I don't know. So it's been really good, and I think you'll see from the photo kind of what it's supposed to look like. And then my description might not be the best, but yeah, you'll be able to see.
No, it sounds really, really good. That definitely sounds delicious. Gonna try it. I think it would be good if you put avocado on it too. But yeah, it just sounds like a really interesting sort of riff on your breakfast taco. I make a breakfast taco that's totally different than that. So I'm excited to try that. It sounds really good.
I was thinking you could add spinach to that too, just lightly wilted spinach. But and it reminds me of something that my husband makes with bread, egg in a hole. It's kind of the same idea, except well, potatoes and sounds really simple and easy to make. I mean,
Yeah,
quick.
and it's yeah, I mean, you just need like a potato, so it's all good, super yummy, and lots of room for modification, which I love based on what mood you're in. Tomatoes could be good to top it, avocado, like you said, anything. So cool. All right. Well, if we have no further comments, I will lead us out and say thank you for watching Recipe Share. Be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes we talked about, and do feel free to share your own in the comments. Join us next time on Recipe Share. We are looking forward to seeing what you've been cooking, so thanks for sharing.
Recipe Share, Recipe Share, share.